Hello, everybody. This is your house shrink, and I'm doing a live streaming today. So there'll be an opportunity for you to join me and ask questions. And what I'm going to be talking about is a very, very important topic, and it's how to love yourself. It's very important because you are the most important person to you. Nobody can be born for you. Nobody can die for you. Nobody can be depressed for you. Nobody can have pain for you. So it's very important then that you begin to look at who you are and how to love yourself. And first, I'll tell you how it doesn't work. It doesn't work when you tell yourself you're wonderful and you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love myself, I love myself. It doesn't work that way because the brain is a lot more complex than that. So what I'm going to be talking about is giving you a little neuropsychology of the brain. I'm a clinical psychologist and I'm the founder of biocognitive science. And I have two best-selling books on this, The Mind-Body Code and The Mind-Body Self. I talk about how mind and body communicate in a cultural context. So the culture teaches you how to love or not love yourself. So it doesn't work if you tell yourself you're wonderful. It doesn't work if you cheerlead. It doesn't work that way. If it did, you could say to somebody who's depressed, don't be depressed. Today's a beautiful day. Come on. And the person will say, oh, you're right. I'm not going to be depressed anymore. It doesn't work that way. Because we're more complex than just thoughts. We're emotions, we're history, we're culture, and we're intellect. So in order to learn how to love yourself, you first have to know what it is that you need to value yourself. So let's look at, for example, how you view other people. Let's say someone that you love, a friend or a family, someone that you love. Without you thinking about it, you actually love that person because that person gives you a sense of safety. That person confirms your value. That person is able to bring out beautiful things in you. That person is willing to give you a sense of belongingness. So all of those things are important. But what happens if you don't do that to yourself? What happens if you don't keep self-caring commitments? Like I've talked about in my other videos about self-esteem. Self-esteem is very important with love. So what happens if you have a friend who just doesn't show up, and half of the time they tell you they're going to do something, they don't do it, their value begins to go down. Now think of yourself and think of how you break self-caring commitments. You say you're going to go work out, or you say you're going to meditate, or you say you're going to take care of yourself and you don't. When you break commitments to yourself, your valuation goes down. So one of the most important things in self-love is begin to look at how you can keep your self-caring commitments. But also you have a history of things that you've done. Nobody's perfect. And things that you were embarrassed or ashamed of, or people have put you down consistently. Well, that's a history that you carry, and then it begins to sabotage the self-loving that you're wanting to do. So the first thing you do is you begin to keep self-caring commitments. That's the first thing you do. You keep them, valuation goes up. Then you realize and understand that the brain needs evidence. You can't just say, I'm a good person, and your brain is saying, look at what you did yesterday, you're not that great. So what you have to do is first you have to begin to act in a way that's compatible with being lovable. And being lovable means that you are someone who is worthy and who values yourself. But you can't value yourself if all you have is negative information. But it also doesn't matter how bad things have been for you. It doesn't matter all the bad things that you've done. That can be changed. The brain is very pliable. And the brain is set up to bring out the best in you, even though sometimes you don't allow it to be. So that's the good news. It has a lot of plasticity. And the brain can learn very quickly. So it's not going to take you a long time to change what took you a lifetime to screw up. It works a lot better because we're predisposed for goodness. When babies are born, they're predisposed to watch toys that are cooperative than toys that are destructing each other, little toys. So we're predisposed for that. When a baby cries in the newborn areas in the hospital, another baby will cry. And they used to think, well, it's got to be imitation. What they did is they actually took the baby, and they recorded their own crying, and the baby didn't cry. They only cried when they heard another baby cry. So it's called a precursors of empathy. So we're built for that. What happens is the cultural beliefs that we have and the people that we hang out with and the family that we have sometimes begin to thwart that and begin to cut it into little pieces. And after a while, you begin to feel unworthy. And if you feel unworthy, you're going to do unworthy things. Because if you say, I'm a bad person, well, what does a bad person do? Bad things. So then as you begin to do things that are self-caring, you begin to do things that you keep commitments, you act honorably with yourself, you're loyal to yourself, then you're beginning to gather new evidence that gives the brain new neural pathways, new ways of looking at the world, looking at yourself. And why is it so important? Because if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody. You might think that you're loving other people, but you're not. How can you give something you don't know what it is? What you're doing is you're needing the person, or you're doing things for that person so they wouldn't leave you. But real love is the one that you take with you. You take your worthiness with you. You take the value of who you are with you and you share it with another person. Whether it's romantic love or whether it's a love for a parent or a friend, it's very important to understand that it has to come from within to go out. It's very important. The other thing that's important to understand is that you have been hurt. And I see it in the videos here in TikTok, people that have been hurt, a lot of young people that have been hurt, with people that ghost them and idiots that are out there. There's a lot of idiots out there. And they hurt for people that are not worthy of hurting. So what happens when you want to get rid of that pain, when you want to get rid of what I call the archetypal wounds? When you're hurt, when your love is unrequited, when someone has hurt you because your heart is an open book, there are only 3 ways that you can be wounded. In all cultures, I study this. You can be shamed, you can be abandoned, or you can be betrayed. So first find out which of the wounds you're dealing with if you have an unrequited love, before you can begin to work on loving yourself. And let's say it was abandonment, okay? Abandonment needs to be corrected with commitment to self. Commitment to self. Let's say it was shame. It needs to be corrected with honor towards self. And let's say it was betrayal. It has to be corrected with loyalty towards self. So if you commit to self, if you honor yourself, and if you're loyal to yourself, that is a terrain for love. That has to be cultivated, has to be practiced. And you have to be around people that begin to believe in the new you. Not the toxic people that will tell, oh, you're worthless, you're never going to go. You don't need that. Those are toxic people. Those are emotional vampires that you need to let go. You need to be around people that support your goodness and that live and co-author the goodness with you. So if you're some kind of idiot that thinks that they're doing you a favor by just being around, get rid of them. You're too important. You're too good to be with people like that. There are a lot of good people out there. But you first have to believe in yourself so they can see you. So they can see who you are, and so they can see your goodness. So it's very important to understand that if you begin to love yourself and you learn how to love yourself the way that I'm talking about it here, then you're going to be attracting people that see that in you. It's not the law of attraction or anything. That's all junk. It's not real science. What will happen is that as you express your goodness, as people see that you make commitments and you keep them, as people see that you have a sense of honor and you don't betray their secrets, then you begin to see that the ones that are valuable will stay, the others will go. And this is another thing that I've talked about in other videos. When people ghost you, which is an act of cowardness, no backbone, when people ghost you, celebrate that they ghosted you because you've gotten rid of some real bad stuff. But when people leave you, they leave you for 2 reasons. You made a mistake, or they don't know how to commit. And if they don't know how to commit, they feel unworthy being around you. What they do is they leave you because you're too good for them. That's when there's low self-esteem. So it's very important when you have low self-esteem, that's what will happen too. You look for people that are unworthy of you because subconsciously and sometimes even consciously, you might think that's all you have. That's all you can offer. You can't be with a person that's really good or special because you're not that special. So you see now how important it is to start with the self-love, the terrain of self-love, because everything emanates from there. As you learn to love yourself, You learn to look for people that also love themselves and value themselves. So if they value themselves, they're going to value you too. If someone is committed to self, honors self, and is loyal to self, most likely they're going to do the same thing with other people. And that's what I talk about in my book, in the Mind Body Code, about relationships that you can create. And you create relationships in what I call guardians of the heart. You love someone in a relationship of close friendship or romantic, and you give that person your heart to guard, and that person gives you their heart to guard, and you protect each other's hearts. And you create a covenant of safety where then you can share each other's dreams and secrets and information. That's the beauty of love. But if you have someone that is going to betray you, they can't do it. They don't have the emotional maturity to do it. And there are a lot of guys out there, especially younger guys who haven't had the experience in knowing that what they're doing doesn't work, who think that they're the best in the world and that they can just treat you badly and you're going to stick around. Let somebody else take the hit, not you. You're too important to do that. So it's very important. But you won't feel the things that I'm talking about till you start actually living and embodying what I'm talking about, which is to honor yourself, to be loyal to yourself, and to commit to yourself. So if there are any questions, you can come on and ask questions, and I'll try to answer them for you. We have time. So feel free. If you have questions, just put them up, and I'll try to answer them for you. Remember, your house shrink. I'm here for you. With good science, not just some junk that you hear out there with how to do kind of things, the 3 steps to happiness, and that's all junk. You have to work. It's not easy. You don't gain good things easily. You have to work and do the things that you need to do in order to get evidence that says, hey, I'm worth it. I worked through this thing in an honorable way. I worked through this thing with commitment. I worked through this thing with loyalty to myself and to others. Let's see. My issue is I do have high self-esteem and know how much I offer, but keep attracting guys with low self-esteem. Well, what you do is you start very quickly looking at how they respond to you at first. If you give them a compliment, how do they take the compliment? For example, if you say, boy, you really look good today. Oh, no, I don't look that good. Or I love your hair. I haven't washed it in 3 days. No good. Because that person doesn't value themselves. Also, people with low self-esteem are very critical of you. They put you down with little things, or they have sarcasm. There are always a lot of things that you have to look for. The people who are sure of themselves, they do something that's very important that I try to teach, is admiration without envy. You have to develop that in self-love also. You have to be able to admire without envy. If you admire with envy, it just breaks everything possible that you could do. There's some hormones called oxytocin, and they're the bonding hormones. When you admire without envy, you secrete oxytocin, which is really good for the heart. It's really very good for many things in the body. But if you have envy, it'll kill it. So that's another way to look at whether someone has high self-esteem or not. If not, they try to put you down when you're doing well because they can't handle that. But if they have good self-esteem, they'll celebrate your triumphs. They celebrate your good fortune because there's no envy. So that's one of the ways to deal with it. And I'll be doing more of these videos. But meanwhile, that's a really good start. Be aware. All the information is there. More questions. Anytime, bring them up, and I'll try to answer them for you. Remember, House Shrink is here. So let's use my time wisely. Okay. Talking about admiration. Admiration, developmentally and in an evolutionary way, was a way for our species to be able to copy good behavior, laudable behavior. You see an athlete, you see someone doing something compassionate, and you wanna be able to replicate that and bring it into your life. And what the psychoneuroimmunology does, what the mind-body process does, is it secretes a hormone that's very pleasant. Actually, oxytocin comes breastfeeding, orgasm, connection with people is a pro-social connection. So another thing that you don't want to do, you don't want to have empty sex. That's not oxytocin. Sex has to be responsible with people that have meaning for you. You're joining bodies. That's a really intimate thing. You just don't give it away. So our bodies are made to pick up on the right kinds of things, like the right intimacy, not just intimacy with anybody. So it's very important to see that we're built for good things. And we're built to be good if we allow it to happen. So, more questions come up and I'll try to answer them for you. Take advantage of this. And meanwhile, I'll keep talking about self-love. Self-love doesn't happen overnight. It happens by you changing the brain patterns based on the evidence that you give it. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Perfection, if it existed, it would be extremely boring. Imagine a perfect person, it'd be extremely boring. The brain was made to be imperfect so it could constantly learn and learn and learn. Once you reach perfection, which you can't, it doesn't have to learn anymore. And it begins to deteriorate. So you want to be learning. You want imperfection to be there as your teacher. And take the weight off of having to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. You don't want to be perfect. You just want to dance around perception of perfection and then just dance around it. Like poets dance around love. They can't describe love, but they dance around love and explain it. Can you explain fear of rejection and self-sabotaging behavior? Yes. You self-sabotage because you don't feel worthy of yourself. Sometimes if you don't feel worthy of yourself, good fortune is more anxiety producing than things going badly. So for example, it's easier to be in pain that you know than in fortune that you don't know, the unknown. That's very important. But the fear of rejection comes from having been rejected early in life, either parents or some situation where you had some kind of rejection and you learned how painful it was. So then when you invest and you give your heart away, you do it carefully and cautiously because you're afraid of losing it. So the thing to consider here is that you have to be aware of where you learned the fear of rejection. And then I'll be talking about more in some other videos about how to deal with that. But the first thing is to find out where did it come from. And then invest slowly in people that are worthy and people that make you feel safe. Don't invest in people that you have a lot of knowledge. As Homo sapiens, as human beings, we have over 150,000 years of trial and error that is transferred epigenetically from generation to generation. So you have a lot of knowledge if you pay attention to yourself and you have intuition. You say, there's something wrong here. I don't like this. Pay attention because it's saying something to you. So that's some of the ideas of self-sabotage. And remember, when things are going well, that's when you have to check it out and say, okay, how am I going to screw this up? Let me check it out. And then say, wait a minute, no. I'm going to be working on the self-love with the things that I talked about. And by the way, when you have self-love, it's easier to accept abundance and it's easier to accept the good things in life. So more questions and more answers. House Shrink here, saying hello to all of you. Now I have enough followers where I can do these streamings. So I'll be able to do more of these. So remember, I'm here. You're not alone. Ask your questions, follow my work, go to Amazon and look at my books. My name is Dr. Mario Martinez. Here, I am the House Shrink. So, any more questions? And I'll continue to go with one more aspect here of self-love. Self-love. Look at the people in your life that you're the closest with. Family. And look at the love that they give you. You're going to find that the people that you're closest with are the people that you can trust, are the people that make you feel good about yourself. Safety is very important. Belongingness is very important. And when you see that in them, begin to imitate it with yourself. Begin to do it with yourself. So, for example, our culture teaches that one person is not as important as others. Before I go on, if I get interrupted with questions, I go to the questions. How can you get better at accepting rejection? Look at the source. When someone is rejecting you, find out why you're being rejected. Is it one of these people that does ghosting? You don't need that. But maybe you've done something that the other person felt that it was appropriate to reject you. Find out what it is. Find out if there's a pattern. But also, very important, find out if you try to sabotage yourself when things are going well and you make it easy for other people to reject you. That's one way. The other way is look at the other person and see if they're worth it. If they're not worth it, then go back into self-loving and find out, no, I don't need this. Unrequited love is love that is not reciprocated. You're going to find that everybody that's rejected you, later you're going to say, thank God, that person's not around anymore. But at first it hurts. But it hurts more if you don't have the self-loving that I'm talking about here. So it's not that you get better accepting rejection. You get better at not having to be rejected by being with the right people. But with the wrong people, rejection, high probability. With the right people, then you have a problem and you work it through. With the wrong people, anytime you do something wrong or they do something wrong, it's over. Those aren't relationships. Those are just dependencies. They're not relationships. Relationships are here to stay. You burn your ship, you go inward with a worthy person, not with a sociopath or a narcissist, because they'll abuse you over and over again. Okay, so more questions. Anytime that I get a question, I interrupt myself and I go to your question because that's extremely important. So feel free to ask the questions. And meanwhile, I'll continue to go on a little longer and give you more information about how to deal with yourself with the self-love. One of the important things that I always talk about is how do you act with people when you don't know them very well? What archetype do you bring in? Are you the clown? Are you the know-it-all? Are you the most powerful? What do you do when you come in? Because people don't know you. So whatever you bring, they're going to think that's you. So what you want to do is you want to be careful when you bring yourself in. Bring yourself in cautiously. Be fun, be intelligent, give yourself an opportunity to be yourself, but don't come up with something just to have a quick laugh or just to get attention or just to look sexy for the moment. Be cautious and be very calm in what you give out. And what you want to give out is for people to know that there's more to you than your body. There's something here. And if that person rejects something here, run like hell, because all they want is your body. And there's a hell of a lot more to you than your body. And by the way, you have to remember that every person has beauty. And you have to look for it. You have to discover what that beauty is. Everyone has it. And you don't care what other people think. Find your beauty. And when you find your beauty, cultivate it, and share it. Share it by expressing it. You don't have to go around saying, look how beautiful I am, but allow yourself to accept compliments, because our cultures teach us to have pseudo-humbleness, not real humbleness. They teach you, be kind, be good, be that, and but when you're little and you say, Mommy, look how pretty I look. No, you can't say you're pretty. You have to wait till somebody says it and then you deny it. That's terrible. If someone says you're pretty, thank you very much. That's it. Never say no problem. No problem. I talked about that. No problem. No problem. What problem? Thank you very much. You're welcome. No problem. It's a problem mindset. And the things that you say will reflect how you think and how you feel. So have a problem consciousness. That's how you're going to be thinking. So keep going with the questions. A lot of people here and not a lot of questions. So feel free. Everything's okay. Ask and see if I can answer them for you. I'm sure I will. That's my job. I'm an excellent clinical psychologist. See, I don't have any problem saying that I'm good. That doesn't mean I'm being narcissistic. That means that I'm good. And if you're good, you let people know you're good. Okay? So if somebody says, I love your book, your bestseller, I don't say, oh, anybody could have done that. No, it's a hell of a lot of work and a lot of investment of my time and my creativity and my experience. So accept yourself when they give you compliments. Extremely important for self-love. But our cultures teach us otherwise. You go to a restaurant by yourself and they say, only one? How many people do you need? One. Oh, could we put you by the bar? No, I want a table for myself. Oh, I can't do that. Goodbye. Go somewhere else. You have to value self, because the cultures value more the group than the individual. Most cultures. Cultures are different, but most cultures are that way. More questions. Thank you, somebody. You're welcome. I'm very pleased to be here. And people are continuing to join. And the questions keep coming. So let's see. Ask me a hard question. The harder the questions, the better. So go ahead. But be aware that sometimes it gets a little difficult because the cultures are made for you not to shine too much. It's okay to be good, but don't be too good because then they'll start putting you down. And you have to be an outlier. You have to be an outlier because if you're not, then you're going to be part of the crowd. Let's see. I'm happy being single, but lately I'm very unhappy because my friends tell me to be in a relationship. See, that's culture pressure. That's peer pressure. You're told by now you should be in a relationship. By now you should have 2 kids. That's crap. You are an individual and you go at your own speed. And if your friends don't like it, give them permission to not like it. Oh, how come you're not in a relationship? Oh, I'm having a good time. I'm fine. You should be in a relationship. Thank you very much. That's it. Drop it and change the subject. You can't live your life based on the expectations of others because you are only responsible to yourself. What brings you peace and what brings you happiness is how you have to live, not how other people think that you should live. Very important to see that. But again, you can only do that when you self-love and you have enough confidence that you can follow your journey without getting disrupted what other people think about. So since you're 31, so what? You have plenty of time. There's no rule. The culture sets rules, but there's no biology that says that you have to have 2 kids by 20 or you have to middle age, all those things. I've worked a lot with centenarians, people who are over 100 years old and who are healthy and all over the world, and they have a way of looking at the world that's very similar to what I'm telling you now. If you ask a centenarian, what's middle age? They'll say, I don't know. You find out when you die. Or you ask a centenarian, so what are your plans for the future? Oh, I'm going to learn German. It's going to take me a few years. And they could be 102 years old. Those things are anti-aging. And by the way, centenarians are not centenarians because of their genes. Genetics is only 20 to 25%. How you live and how you perceive the world and how you love is what allows you to be healthy and have a long life. Of course, you don't want to eat junk food and not work out on that. But in addition to that, the most important thing is the biosymbols that you live. Extremely important. So I know there are a lot of young people here. So learn it early so you don't make the mistakes that most people make later. So it's here for you to be able to take advantage of it. Okay, more questions. Who else is going to ask a question here? And I'll continue to go on. Go ahead. Don't be afraid. Nobody's going to bite you. And the questions are always great. When I do workshops and people ask questions, they're great because they remind me of something that I would have forgotten if I hadn't asked the question. Or some people are shy, and when somebody asks a question, say, oh, great, I'm glad at least they asked the question. Now I can get some answers. So keep up and let me know. I'll keep talking till I get another wonderful interruption with another beautiful question here. So remember, you don't live for the expectations of others. Happiness is not what others think of you. Happiness is the kind of commitments that you make to yourself to be at peace with yourself. If your friends don't like it, give them permission to not like it. And if they're your real friends, they'll accept you. If they're not your real friends, then you need to look around. There are people that accept you the way you are. They say, I don't want to be in a relationship, fine. I don't want to have kids, fine. I want to have 10 kids, fine. It's important that people allow you to be yourself. You can always take feedback, but you take feedback based on what works for you. What works for you is what you live, not what other people think you need to live. Because what they're going to tell you is what's good for them, and then they project it out to you. But that's not what you need. What you need is to know who you are, and the way you know who you are is by beginning to love yourself. From the beginning of this talk, which was about how to love yourself, these are the things that you do to love yourself. So it's pretty good that I think I have about an hour, but I'm not going to do as much time because I think people need to get information a little quicker and so forth. But meanwhile, I'll stay around a little longer, and especially if you have questions, feel free, because there are many of you here, And not many are asking questions. So go ahead and ask questions. Oh, I missed it. What did you miss? Tell me what you missed and I'll repeat it. Allison. People are asking me to go live with me, and I have to reject that because otherwise then it'll be very confusing. Can you recap on how to love yourself? First, number one, keep self-caring commitments. Number two, be honorable with yourself. And number three, be loyal to yourself. You cultivate those three components, and you will find that gradually your self-esteem goes up, your self-value goes up, and then begin to live it. Because as I explained before, the brain needs information to create neural maps. You just don't cheerlead yourself into it. You have to actually live it and have evidence that you're committing to yourself. Especially self-caring commitments. When you break them, self-esteem goes down because you're not reliable to yourself. So those are the three, and I'll be having more of these talks as we move along. But that's basically some of the ideas of how to love yourself. Also, go to my other videos. I have things about self-esteem, about ghosting, so I think you can get a lot. They're short. The others are just 60 seconds. So you're welcome. People are thanking me. You're welcome. I mean, it's really a pleasure to be here and to try to offer my expertise to this great audience that I have. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, because the only way that you can get to be on these long videos is to have a certain amount of followers. And because of you, I can do that now. So, and again, someone thanking me, it's my pleasure. And thank you so much. I watch you navigating beauty videos and really enjoy them. Yes, that's right. I thought I'd love myself because I always made an effort to look good, exercise. That's good. No, that is good. That is the physical part, which you need. I work out all the time, but that's not all of me. You need the physical and you need the internal, the emotional, even the spiritual. So you bring them both together, mind and body and culture together. So the workout are great because you see, a workout is a commitment. You're already making a commitment to yourself. So you want to change and take those commitments that you make to the workout into committing into self-caring. One of the things you can do, prepare a meal for yourself. Have a meal for yourself, candlelit, and you'll see how you're going to feel a little uncomfortable. And at first you're going to say, oh, just for me? Well, aren't you important enough? I do that sometimes, almost any night. I eat by myself, candles, flute, meditating music, incense. Why? Because I'm worth it. And you have to be worth it too. So, more questions. Oh, a lot of people are showing up here. And be an outlier and ask the questions so that I can try to answer them for you, because they're all going to be related to self-love. So the things that you learn here is not going to be just the usual superficial pseudoscience that you hear all over. This is real science. This is neuropsychological science, and these are things that work. I've done it in my practice, and I've done it in hospitals that I've worked with, and I've done it in workshops and all over. It works. And especially works with people like you who are excited about life and who may be hurting, but what you're getting now is tools to get rid of the hurting, because there's too much beauty out there. And you can't let people who are unworthy of you to keep you down. Not good. Won't allow that anymore. That's it. Just say, the house shrink won't let me do it anymore for a while. And then you do it on your own. So you can blame me for putting limits with people. They're going to say, who the hell is that house shrink? So anyway, more questions here. Thank you. You're welcome very much. You're welcome. A lot of gratitude here. And hopefully have a couple of more questions, and then I'm going to need to go. But remember that these are things that I'm going to be doing on a regular basis. So follow and let other people know. It has to go viral because it's good stuff. This is things that will help you grow and will help you get rid of the emotional vampires. And they're out there. And the emotional vampires do not like people with good self-esteem. They run like hell. They don't know how to deal with it. But remember, they'll put you down before they go, because they have to justify why they're leaving. They're not going to say, I'm leaving because I feel unworthy. No, they say, I'm leaving because there's something wrong with you. That's how they leave. And what's wrong is that they're not willing or able to accept good fortune, love, beautiful things in life. They don't know how to do it. So just, you can feel compassion for them, but you let them go. Just because you feel compassion doesn't mean you have to let them hurt you. Set limits. Setting limits is extremely important. You set limits, and then you give people permission to not like it. That's very important. You set limits, and you give people permission to not like it. If you don't give them permission, they start giving you a hard time. You go back and you break your limits. No. It's set your limits, emotional limits, and then give people permission to not like it. And stick to your guns, because also cultures are very good at either forcing you to do something you don't want, or excusing you if you're sick, or if you use some kind of victimhood. So for example, somebody says, let's go to the movies, or let's go do whatever. And you say, no, I think I'm going to stay home and read. Oh, come on, you can go and read some other time. You see, you're not important enough. That's culture, not because they're bad. It's just how they learn. And then what you will have to say is that, no, I'm not going to go. I'm going to read. And then give them permission to not like it. But look how the cultures work. If you tell them you have a migraine, you're off. Or if you tell them that you don't feel well because you were abused 10 years ago, you're off. So always say no without using your body as excuse. Even if you don't feel well, don't say, I don't feel well, because your brain is listening. And when your brain is listening, if you say you're sick and you're not really sick, it'll start getting you sick because it gives you a pass. I struggle keeping commitments to myself. Where you learned that from somebody. Find out where you learned it, and find out how you can make small commitments first. How can you keep, and you're going to feel a little anxious when you try to keep a commitment. Breathe, keep it, do it, and then reward yourself by saying, I did it, I'm a good person. But you learn from someone not to keep commitments. You learn from someone early that they couldn't keep commitments with you. So therefore, especially, it's just interesting how we entangle love with the things that we learn. Let's say you have a parent who was abandoning emotionally or physically or intellectually. Well, since you don't know better, you think that that's what love is. So you wrap love around the wound, and then you start acting where love becomes love with abandonment, or love with shame, or love with betrayal. And you have to untangle that. Read my books, especially the Mind-Body Code, and you'll see there are a lot of techniques that I can't give you all the information here because it's quite complex, but I give you at least ways to begin to look at it. You learn something. You weren't born that way. You learned it that way, and you can unlearn it. So these are really, really good questions about keeping commitments to self. You see, that's one of the first things that I said in the beginning. Self-love has to do with commitment to self-caring. If you break them, self-love goes down, and therefore you look for people that don't love you, people that use you. That's very important. When you love yourself, you won't let anybody use you. When you don't love yourself, you let anybody use you just to have you be with them. You put up with a lot of crap because you don't think you're worth it. So remember that. Okay, a few more minutes and then I'm going to have to go, and I just want to thank everybody for being here. A lot of good questions, a lot of people showed up, and also people very thankful, giving thanks, and I appreciate that very much. But stay tuned and let your friends know. Go and follow my work, because there'll be a lot more. This is free, no charge. So what I'm wanting to do is to help and try to balance out all the crap that's out there. Please do this again. I will. I'll do it more often. But I will be putting up the short ones too. So be aware of that. And you have to follow. Following is extremely important. And by the following, then you can have access to the information. It's a lot easier than just liking. You can like it, but following is just more important, because then this allows me to do more work and more of these things. So the people that just joined, welcome. And I think I can put this up. I think this is a way. There's a way to get this on my channel. So those of you who missed it or who want to go back and kind of review what I had to say, because I said a hell of a lot here, you can go back and do that. So hopefully I'll be able to to record it, and I think it's being recorded, and then put it up. So I'll find out. If any of you are TikTok geniuses and you know what I need to do, tell me, because then I can do it. I haven't been on TikTok very long. I'm usually on YouTube and Instagram and other things, and of course my website. So when you go to my page, you'll see also a link to my website. Go there. A lot of information. Go to YouTube. Over 120 free videos that you can watch about mind-body science and relationships and everything. And my YouTube channel is simply Dr. Mario Martinez channel. That's it. So there's a lot of information you can get so that you can begin to self-love, and so you begin to take a place in the world where you feel like you belong wherever you go. All right? So I am going to be leaving, and yes, I will do this again. And thank you very much. Let's see, one more. Do you have any thoughts on how to stop feeling stuck in life? Why do we hold ourselves back? For fear of rejection. You were taught that to take chances is dangerous because you can be hurt. So what you do is don't try to do an extremely difficult thing. Slowly. Make a small commitment and do it. And you're stuck in life because you're rerunning your past, or rerunning what the future could be. Stay in the present and find out what you need to do. But also look at who taught you to get stuck. You see parents, you see people. They don't teach you by telling you. They teach you by you watching them and seeing how they do things. So for example, let's say you have a father that tried everything and never made it, and tried. And your father said, oh, don't be like me. Well, a part of you understands that, but part of you thinks that that's how it is, that no matter how you try, you're going to fail because your idol failed, so who are you to not fail? And I'll be talking about that later, about another video, about failure and about the things that we learn from our parents and how we have to move beyond what we learn from our parents. So, let's see. Any more? I want to make sure that I answer all the questions, and if I don't, then you know that next time I'll be able to answer more questions for you. Makes sense? Yes, thank you. It does make sense. So I will be leaving now as soon as I figure out how to do it. This is the first time that I've done this. Let's see. Wait a minute. I'm trying to leave and I don't know how to leave. So meanwhile, I'll go ahead and keep asking questions till I figure out how to get the hell out of here. Okay, so have a wonderful day, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being so kind and so loving. So enjoy.